Cooler. This year we brought back myself, Matthew Palumbo. We have Rachel Merrifield, who was the developer of BronyCon and continues to work on special needs applications.
Hello.
My sister Lindsay, who is very familiar with working with individuals with special needs on a one-on-one basis. And we are especially honored to have Dr. Wolf assisting us with our conclusion this year.
Greetings and good morning, one and all. Glad to be seeing a good turnout here.
Now, as you all know, if any of you were here last year or not, and what I want to preface right off the bat is that all this content is freely available on our Weebly site, so any link that is not clicked is something you can find for free in accessible format, which means if any of you use screen readers or do not have good eyesight and need something high contrast, we got it. It's already up too. So we're well ahead of that. But last year, our primary focus was talking about how special people in our lives can help make that difference. And we used Spike, Snowdrop, and Scootaloo as our primary examples of that to kind of show how friendship, good mothering, mentoring, and a combination of all of that can help us find out that we may have a limitation, but that limitation is only what we allow it to be. Sure, there's things you can't do, we realistically can't do. I'm blind, you do not want me driving a truck. But despite that, there's a lot of things I can do. I am not a page 189 out of a book. Therefore, we have to take a one-on-one human approach in how important it is that we have friends and people in our lives and are open to let people into our lives to show us that our limitations are only what we allow them to be. Yes, there are real ones, but there are so many that are fake or self-fulfilling prophecies that we need to break them, and that's what we're all about here. This is what leads into what we're doing this year. This year, we're using the Cutie Mark Crusaders, primarily Apple Bloom and Scootaloo, to kind of touch on areas of overcoming a particular special need, as well as we're using Muffins, now that we know that she has an official name. And we are also using, if I recall right, I'm sorry, I got lost on that. It's just Apple Bloom and Muffins and Scootaloo are the primary examples of how that, as well as you'll see when Rachel does her inclusion slide a little bit more on that. So how about we get started in discussing acceptance? Because when it comes to special needs, it's all about the understanding ourselves. So Rachel, if you would you start the first clip, please?
Okay.
And please forgive the laptop, it's picky.
I can't fly.
It's not showing?
Is it showing? Oh dear.
Can you see it now? It might be something to do, give me 1 second. It may do with the PowerPoint being active.
Oh, if you hit Alt Tab, maybe it might switch over to the window. Yes.
That I can show this to like other parents?
Yes, and also it's all online on our Weebly site, and I have documentation as well as the rest of my team has documentation in which will lead you to it. And for those who are interested in all the content, we have a few copies of a thumb drive that has everything on that as well, which is free to distribute. It's all open source. We want it to all be available. I suppose as we troubleshoot the PowerPoint, any other questions?
Can everyone see Scootaloo on the screen?
Nope.
What?
It's not just her flank that's blank, it's the screen.
As soon as you see something, tell us.
But our overall aim is to make sure that this presentation that you're seeing right here for the 50 minutes that were allotted, it's more than just being here at BronyCon in front of all of you to present. We want to make sure that these resources that we have available and have worked over a year to compile to come to this very point can be a benefit for everyone and accessible to everyone as well. So hopefully, because last year we learned a lesson. There were people who wanted access to the resources and we didn't have it right. So this year we invested a lot of time and as much money as we could to make sure that anyone who wants to try to pass this information on to show how My Little Pony has helped so many people overcome or cope with their disabilities or special needs or even traumatic times, they can do it. Because I can tell you what, I did it. please feel free to ask. This is an we encompass everything. There is no discrimination against any particular special need. We're here to help everyone. Yes. And see, that's why we wanted to make it fair, because the one thing I'm sure, I'm sorry. But one thing we want to stress a lot about is that BronyCon is an amazing place. For 3 days out of a year, and this is at my level of being visually impaired, soon to be going totally blind, I noticed for 3 days out of an entire 365-day year that I actually can feel treated like a regular human being instead of the blind dumb guy, which is typically the stereotype that goes around with society, which is unfortunate. And I know a lot of individuals out there who have special needs go through it as well. You get that misperception judgment right off the bat, and then people you're like, you're not giving me a chance. You're not letting me show you who I really am. You're judging me by this one piece, this one small fragment. And that's why we're proud to be presenting here today, because of how we want to show, look, we may all have different special needs or not have any particular special need at all, but we're all bronies. We all like the show, right? Yeah. So it doesn't matter if you have a special need, because we all share that we like to do art, we like to do music, we like to do anything you can think of, programming, with the fact that we can share in this community. We don't have to say, look, I'm autistic and I can program. No, I program.
There it is. Thank you.
And look, we got a little Q&A in at the same time, so woo!
I can't fly. I just can't.
Now, this clip is very important for a lot of individuals, especially those who go into their special needs slowly, not right off the bat. It's very hard to accept that you have a limitation. Scootaloo, if everyone remembers Flight to the Finish, her toughest moment was realizing, accepting to herself, she can't fly. As much as everyone makes her think she has to because she's a Pegasus, that is the hardest thing you can come to terms with, and it stings. It hurts to have to say to yourself, I can't do this. I can tell you from my own example, a year ago, I could still play video games. My vision has deteriorated so much in just 1 year, I can't. And that was hard. But at the same time, there are other things you can do. And more importantly, if we show you the second clip, you can see what helps you get through that.
Rainbow Dash, what if my wings never grow? What if I never fly?
Listen, Scootaloo, maybe you'll fly someday, or maybe you won't. You're all kinds of awesome anyway. Who's the toughest little pony in town?
Got the moves, got the mojo. No harder working pony around. We are a trio.
Work as a team, we'll be the first ponies out on the flag waving scene.
So let's get to the Crystal Empire and let's do the routinas at once. And let's win this thing!
Now, did you all notice how Scootaloo got over the fact that she had that flightless limitation because her friends let her know? It's not the fact that she can fly or not. It's the fact of who she is as a character, as a person, as a friend. And that's what all of us need to look for when we're coping with our special needs. There is that time of sorrow and sadness where you have to accept the loss. That's part of the mourning process. We all have to deal with the loss. But as you notice with Rainbow Dash serving as a mentor and having two friends that would not accept their friend feeling down on themselves for something they didn't think she should be down upon, did you notice how uplifting that was for her? It's the same for all of us. And this is why it's so important that you have these friends, because they can help you discover that even if you have a limitation, there are other things you can do, which is as we'll demonstrate in the third presentation clip.
Sorry.
We like the music that much. I look like a sad pony for the fact that she can't fly? And that's the way we all should be looking at ourselves. Through friends that see us for who we really are, and mind you, it's hard to find those friends. It's hard to find those people who will try to see us for who we are on the inside. But notice how Scootaloo, yeah, she can't fly, but look what she can do with those little wings. That's quite some propulsion, wouldn't you agree? So that's something to remember as you go through the process of coping with your special need, is the fact that yes, you have it. Yes, it's a part of you. Does it need to own you? No. It's just something that you work around and you find out what makes you special otherwise. You find your other cutie mark. You move on. Because as humans, we can do it. Because if the ponies can do it, why can't we? So, the next slide, talking on more on acceptance, we're going to start talking on bullying. The first topic will be schoolhouse bullying. So, if you would, Rachel.
To sit through a lecture about getting a cutie mark. I mean, waiting for your...
Oh, it's not showing. Darn it. This silly thing. Give me a second.
Oh, technology.
The wonders of technology. Can you see it?
I don't see it on screen.
Oh no, not again.
And see, being visually impaired doesn't help me one bit on this. It's like, do you see anything? What? What do I see? And there's another thing too. When you have a special need, you got to learn to roll with it, because people are going to judge you whether you want them to or not. You have no control over what people are going to say or think about you. And that was one of the toughest lessons I ever learned, because I had to judge. Oh, here we go. Do you got it?
Wait, no. Wait a second.
Okay. See,
VLC is glitching.
we'll use this more as a chance for some fun facts.
A lecture about...
Darn it. Let me try it. It's glitching up.
But what it comes down to, everyone, is people are going to judge you whether you want them to judge you or not. You have no control over what people think about you. So if you walk out thinking someone's going to notice I'm autistic, someone's going to notice I'm deaf, someone's going to notice I'm this, someone's going to notice I'm that, yeah, they're going to notice. But the fact is, do you notice? Because if you let yourself notice it, that's when it really hurts.
Rainbow Dash. What
Oh,
if...
we went backwards.
Yep, that's...
We time traveled.
Gotta love the wonders of Microsoft. Let's see, it is...
But it's very important for
We
everyone
had to sit
out.
through a lecture about getting a cutie mark. I mean, waiting for your cutie mark is so last week. You got yours. I just got mine. We all have them already. I mean, almost all of us have them already. Don't worry, you two. You're still totally invited to my quinceañera this weekend. It's going to be amazing. It's a party celebrating me and my fantastic cutie mark. How can it not be? Sugar love. Give me a break. See you this weekend. Blanks.
Now, this clip was way back in season 1. And mind you, the important thing to point out is, did you see how much those words hurt Apple Bloom? And also at the time Twist. Again, did Apple Bloom have any control of whether she got her cutie mark? Did Apple Bloom have any control over what Silver Spoon and Diamond Diarra had to say? That's the important thing to remember. But we got to move further. We got to take another step, which goes into the second clip. Please show.
Wow, that is an amazing cutie mark. Nice try. Blank. You got a problem with blanks? I said, you got a problem with blanks? The problem is, it means she's like totally not special. No, it means she's full of potential. It means she could be great at anything. The possibilities are like endless. She could be a great scientist, or an amazing artist, or a famous writer. She could even be mayor of Ponyville someday. And she's not stuck being stuck up like you two. Hey, this is my party. Why are you two on her side? Because you don't have any cutie marks either? I thought I was the only one. We thought...
Now, what did you think about that? Stepping up and saying, look, you guys you have no power. Your words are simply your call, your judgment, and an incorrect judgment at that. And I bet everyone here at BronyCon has learned something very important during their stay so far. You have probably found someone that you thought you'd never find who is just like you. And isn't that nice? And it proves the fact of what we've seen here. Just because you see someone getting teased doesn't mean that person being teased doesn't have someone that's just like them and needs someone to stand up and say, look, is what I have right now a problem? Does my blindness bother you? I mean, that's the point here. It's not a cutie mark, but the whole thing is, does my condition bother you? Do I hurt you by having my condition? Does anyone who has a condition out there bother anyone because of the fact that we have something that is totally out of our control? Exactly. We don't go troubleshooting until the end. But that's the whole point. Everyone has a special need to some degree. I mean, even if you are so-called normal, everyone has a special need that needs addressed. Making fun of someone, that's not right, because you know what? Someone could turn it around on you at the same time. That's why we need to look at each other for shared interests without going out and being trolls and making people feel horrible for something that is, again, not of their control. If it could be in their control, you reach out and help, like Scootaloo and Sweetie Belle did. So now we're going to move on and showing how Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon lose their power because of time and realizing that what the words of these two of Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon say mean nothing. So third clip.
If that's the best you've got, we're going to win for sure. We already have the most divine routine planned. It's absolutely sure to crush everyone else, and I mean crush. But we're winners, and we have hearts. Sure, but you know what you don't have? Your cutie marks. Flag, flags, flag, flags, flag, flags. What does that have to do with flag carrying? Having cutie markless ponies represent Ponyville would be unthinkable. And we, of course, already have our cutie marks, so we know who's gonna be in the winner's circle. Listen, you two, cutie marks or no cutie marks, you'll see the Crusaders are gonna carry that flag at the games. May the best ponies win. Game on!
Now, isn't that the way to take the power back after someone that you've had no control over? Their judgment now means nothing. Because they're trying to make you feel bad about something that's out of your control, but guess what? You see what they did. And we all can do that. Don't give control to those who don't deserve it. You're in control of your own feelings, and as one who can control your own feelings, if someone wants to keep trying to rub in something ridiculous as saying, because I can tell you from growing up, when I grew up in high school, I went to a regular public high school. I had people pointing at my eye and calling me all sorts of things. At the time, I wish I knew this. I wish I knew that it didn't matter, because I can't control my condition, nor can I control this person being an idiot. But the whole fact is I can choose whether I give them power over me. There, the Crusaders showed us, okay, Diamond Tiara, Silver Spoon, you can call us blank flanks, but that means nothing, because we're going to still beat you. So there. And that's what you all can do. You all can just go out with your special, even if you have your special need, that doesn't stop you from being successful. Remember that. No matter what anyone says, you can succeed. Now on to something a little more interesting that might be of interest to all of you. Bullying as adults. And I'm sure we all know, I bet you can all guess who this is going to focus on, but let's start the clips.
Could you possibly make all those outfits out of it so fast?
Fast? Ha! Coco Pomel here. It took practically forever. Nearly got me completely disqualified.
Well, I wanted to make sure you'd win, so I took the extra time to...
Quiet! I pay an assistant to sew and get coffee, not talk. Okay?
How could this happen?
Hope you realize how fortunate you are to have me as a mentor. Now get me some coffee!
Now, something that's especially those, anyone, but particularly individuals with special needs. I was raised going through college. I have a master's, and I was told if I gave 110% that I'd be appreciated. Do you see how appreciated Coco Pomel was by Surrey? And all Coco wanted to do was succeed. She wanted to have a chance to be a part of something, to know that she was a contributor. And look how Surrey treated her. Now let's move on.
You best steer clear of Prim for a while. She's pretty furious. Isn't that right?
Yes.
Do you realize that the more you're in a toxic work environment or around someone who is, say, a bad supervisor, the more inclined you are to also follow in the unethical behavior that your supervisor is doing out of fear for your job? Now, next piece.
And that is how it's done. Pretty clever how I convinced her to stay away from Prim, wasn't it? Wouldn't have wanted her to find out the truth now, would we?
How do you like that? Positive reinforcement for negative actions. But again, it's the fear of the job, the fear of not having a job that would kept Coco doing the wrong thing. So this is why, of course, we go to...
But I thought I lost.
You didn't. You won. Suri was hoping that if you didn't claim your prize, the judges would consider it a forfeit and first place would go to her. So she lied to make you and your friends go away and, well, I lied too. I've worked for Suri for so long, I started to believe that it really is every pony for herself in this town. Until I saw how generous you were with your friends and how generous they were with you. It made me start believing there was something better for me out there. So I quit.
Now, do you realize, and I bet all of you who are working know the difficulty in saying that you quit a job because you knew it was bad. There are situations, and unfortunately, we'll move on to the next slide to talk about this a bit in brief. Do you realize there are no laws in place to protect people against workplace bullying? None. Zero. People, right now, corporate legal departments know exactly how to tell their directors and even encourage their HR departments to use specific wording that is not put in the documentation to push people out of their jobs. The reason I'm wearing, last year, Michael Moranis was here as well as Grayson. Last year, the Michael Moranis Society gave me this band because of the fact that what happened to Michael was a result of bullying. How are we going to stop bullying if we're letting it happen as adults make it an example? The tragedy will not stop until we find a way to stop making bullying allowed by adults, because adults model the behavior for children. So if we're going to stop these horrible things that are happening in the school place to Grayson and Michael, we need to start doing something to make sure that there's better education and more protection for people in the workforce from being bullied because you may not fit into the social groove within that workplace. Because we could talk a big talk about kids bullying, but when you discover that the root cause is adults doing it and legitimately doing it and companies being encouraged to do it, that's the real problem. That's where we really need to target, and that's why we brought this up. So that way all of you out there in the work, we're going into work, defend yourself. Stand up for yourself. Do not accept that you should be pushed around like Coco Pamel was. Do what she did. If you know it's bad, it's their loss that they lost you. Their loss that they pushed you out of the company, because they can't take away your accomplishments no matter what someone says. You achieved something. If they want to try to throw that against you and they didn't say anything prior, their loss. And now Rachel will talk about our inclusion slides.
Hello. Hi, my name is Rachel, and I was here last year. I'm kind of nervous. Basically, when we look at ourselves, we kind of see ourselves, and a lot of times we look at our differences. Like, you know, we could look at our group and say, oh my God, there's 2 blind people and there's 2 people who can see, right? Well, how I see it is that we see ourselves as a whole group. We are all part of a panel, and we are all working together to kind of show how all of our things come together to kind of make something great. And, you know, sometimes, you know, when we are focusing so much on how we are different, we kind of become, like as he said earlier, we become really self-defeatist. We become, you know, we lose our ability to we lose our ability to kind of function if we just look at ourselves and look at how different we all are and don't focus on trying to be part of something together. So the reason why inclusion is important is because a lot of these barriers are artificial. A lot of these barriers are caused by the fact that we look at ourselves and we're looking at our differences instead of looking at our similarities. I could go and say, well, okay, Matthew, you can't drive a car, but at the same time, I know that you can use a computer. I know that you used a computer well enough to make this entire presentation by yourself, and I know that you did a lot of work to put everything together, and I know that every person in this group has some sort of talent that comes together, kind of like the Cutie Mark Crusaders, who have all their different unique talents that come together to make something great, like in what was that episode called again?
Well, why don't you show them the clip?
Oh,
Flight to the finish, you mean?
yeah, thank you. I am so bad with the episode.
Since the dawn of recorded time, in one town of amazing amazingness, 3 types of ponies coexist. We are Earth ponies. We are unicorns. We are Pegasi. And the town where friendship reigns is our home. Now welcome to the stadium, the flag of the place we love best.
They could have looked at each other and thought, okay, we're all different kinds of ponies, essentially. But instead, they looked at how they were similar, and they come together to form the 3 different races, essentially, of different ponies together. And they used their own special talents to kind of produce a single production together. So, I mean, that's kind of what we're doing here. And when it comes to a lot of things, we look at things and how we look at our differences, and we could say, oh well, Scootaloo can't fly, but she accommodates this difference by using her scooter to kind of show off how she uses her wings instead to propel her scooter instead of going around and just flying around like everyone else. And when I shoot, I'm so nervous. I'm sorry. They could have just said, oh, you're not a flying Pegasus, so you're not good enough for our group. But the reality was that Pegasuses are much more than just being able to fly. People are much more than just being able to see or hear or just interact with other people or whatnot. We all, as I said last year, we all kind of have our own special place. It kind of reminds me of, what was his name, Troubleshoes. Mm-hmm. Because, Troubleshoes was a pony who saw himself as, poor and bad because of the fact that his cutie mark was associated with him being a klutz. But when you looked at it in a different light and you looked at what it could have been used for, and you put it in a different perspective, like being part of being an entertainer, then you realize that you become you become something that you enjoy, and you become something that other people enjoy and benefit from as well.
And speaking of enjoying, show the second clip, which involves someone who managed to get something through Make-A-Wish.
Sorry, girls. Been trading all day. My belly's telling me it's time to eat a nut burger.
Now, again, part of the inclusion, and Rachel, you can please follow up on this if you'd like, but it's the idea that his Make-A-Wish was to be a part of the show, and they made it happen.
Yeah, and they could have. I mean, obviously it's Make-A-Wish; they're not going to go and deny it. But I mean, you could have looked at that and you could have said, okay, you're in a wheelchair, you're not able to, be a pony. But they designed their own kind of pony wheelchairs to be just as pretty much normal as everybody else, and he can just go around and use his front. He can go around and use his front hooves to compensate for the fact that he can't use his back hooves.
And not to mention, if anyone remembers Traja, do you remember anybody making any notation about, oh gosh, there's that guy in the wheelchair?
No.
See? Inclusion. That's true inclusion. And now... And now here's our time to take Muffins back with Rachel taking us through episode 100 and how Muffins saves the day.
Matilda! I feel so bad about the invitations. Is there anything I can do? Flowers!
dick.
Like these? They're pretty.
Ah, yes, my flameless fireworks. Never could quite figure out how to get them to ignite.
How did you learn to make?
Sorry, this thing is going back and forth. Where did that? What's this one?
Look, I finally figured out how I can help. Your flameless fireworks look just like flowers. I'll use them for the wedding. Flameless fireworks look even better than flowers.
Of course! They need love to ignite! How could I have missed?
See, we took her back. Remember all the drama that went on when poor Miss Amy Keating Rogers got hit up for the fact that she did the fan nod for Derpy? I feel that what they did in episode 100 was a great way to give Muffins back what we in the special needs community needed. A character who's determined and no matter how she may have been judged, keeps on going without giving up.
So real quick, I'm going to kind of go over a personal project that I've done in my spare time, and I presented it last year, but I won't have enough time to kind of present it again this year. But a lot of people, when I started this project, and essentially what it is it's Pokemon for people who are visually impaired or blind. And a lot of people, when they first saw it, said it couldn't be done. They said, oh, who would even be able to do that? How would you be able to do this? How would you be able to do that? How would you be able to do that? And one part of inclusion is thinking outside the box and seeing, past those artificial barriers. We're telling, people would look at that and said, it can't be done, but I made it happen. So, that's how you start to work towards inclusion, by knocking down those barriers. And it turns out that, there's a lot more of these artificial barriers that exist in technology than, should be even reasonably possible. It's not just with video games, it's with a lot of things. And these things are, making it more difficult to be part of inclusion, or rather to include others. And these challenges make it very difficult for, people like Matthew, for example, to be able to work. But the reality is that doesn't mean he can't work. It means that we haven't really figured out the best way to do it yet, and we just have to figure out the best way to include him. Just kind of like how the best way to include Scootaloo. Yeah, sure, Scootaloo can't fly, but she could use her scooter. And yeah, sure, our friend here, Matthew, can't see, but he can use special technology with his computer to allow him to be able to use the software in order to do that. So the only time that we can't work towards inclusion is when we say we can't work towards inclusion. That is ultimately the only thing that stands in our way. So this is just a link to my blog. I don't think I'll show it.
Yeah, the rest of the resources that are available, there are more examples of how inclusion can be made, and they will be available on our website as well, because all the other links that you'll see from the rest of the presentation are all materials that are accessible when you get on our site. Or if I can give some, because the rest of my team has some thumb drives to hand out. We have some handouts up here. So we'll get more into the other materials later. The rest of this is mostly just going over, showing you how to give yourself the self-advocacy as we move into, I believe, the action slides, which start with my sister, Lindsay.
Hello. Everybody doing okay out there? Yeah. All right, good. Thank you for being patient with our technology issues. Rachel, thank you for fighting with our technology and the staff to help us. Part of making our advancements into inclusion is working with technology, so we're all learning along the way. There's a lot of information within the action portion, a lot of different things available to people, but for the sake of time, I'm just going to try to be brief. What we're saying in part of who's already spoken so far is something called person first language. You're a person first, and then whatever it is that defines you after. You're a person with brown hair, it could be a person with visual impairment and so forth. You are a person first, so try to keep that in mind as we're talking. And part of taking action is knowing your resources, taking action like you are right now, sitting here, hopefully learning something. Hopefully you'll be able to share something with somebody else, either throughout the con or whenever you go home from the con. With a lot of these resources, please keep in mind that according to an extrapolated study, there are 12.6 Americans with some type of disability. This includes of all ages. There's a little bit of a discrepancy with that research with the Census Bureau, but it's approximately 38 million Americans, more than 38 million Americans with a disability. So chances are you do know someone. Well, obviously you're in here. We're right here in front of you. Hi. Again. But there are ways to expand on your own networks and make things better for you or for other people with disabilities. Part of my thing whenever I was in college, I was a volunteer for an equestrian riding academy. It was a great experience. I had to break a few barriers to actually get out with the horses and the students. They thought all I could do was clean tack for quite a while. I had lots of oil on my hands from cleaning tack for about a semester, but it really worked out and got to work with the kids, and they are out there. And I know a lot of people here might like horses and ponies, so that might be something for you to look into if you're not already aware of those things. The next part of what I had asked Matt to include was some information you might not be familiar with, Newsline and the National Library Services programs. This is to get you connected with information if you're not. Newsline gets you connected with newspapers and magazines from around the country and around the world, not just for people with visual impairments. This is for anyone who might have a disability that affects their ability to access print. And the National Library Service is also giving you access to literature and books. Expand upon your knowledge and creativity as much as you possibly can if you can access those resources. So like I said, there's a lot of information, and I'm going to keep things moving along, but please feel free to talk to us afterwards.
Something that I learned that is important, and above all, I must thank our good friend here, Dr. Wolf, for this. And it's because of the fact that coping with a disability or special need or life circumstance is not easy, but there is a terrible stigma for getting help. Awful stigma. What I had to learn was that that stigma is so incorrect. You are very brave if you get help. And what's nice about Dr. Wolf here is, although he's not a licensed counselor, he is a very wonderful friend to all of us, because the slide here will present, as well as the slide also is available on our website to get the access so you can find a therapist if you want to. Therapy has helped me to come to terms with my condition. It has helped me to discover that people don't define me, I define myself. It has given me the strength to stand before you and say that I'm blind and it's okay. Because when I go totally blind, as we learned from Snowdrop here, and Meredith Sims helped write this line herself, and I'm proud of her for it because it got me going. You don't need your eyes to find your place in the world. I don't. You don't need any, whatever you may be lacking, so what? The rest of you is perfect. But sometimes it can be very scary to try to seek out that help with counseling. So for that reason, I encourage you to look at some of the A Moment with Dr. Wolf videos, because even though he is not a licensed clinician, even though he's not a psychologist for real, he is just a wonderful human being to whom I took some of his sessions to my therapy sessions so that my therapist could understand how I felt. because I related a lot with Spike and Fluttershy. And when I played 2 of his sessions to my therapist, she knew exactly how to work with me. It broke the ice and it allowed us to move forward. So if you're looking for a start where you don't have to feel like someone, if you're still in that fear of judgment phase, watch some moments with Dr. Wolf, because you could not ask for a better way to find out to yourself that it's okay to open up to your feelings. If any of you remember the Care Bears, let's bring that concept back. Your feelings are good. And again, only we have control of our feelings. So therefore, if we have the right resources, the friends, the networks together, we will be able to empower ourselves to go miles beyond what we ever would have thought were possible, because of the fact that we are brave enough to seek out those people and resources that will allow us to not see ourselves by our disability, not define ourselves by our special needs, but by who we are, just like Scootaloo has and Snowdrop. Turn it over to Dr. Wolf to summarize what we've talked about today.
All the helpful resources, these ones.
Oh, there's one more resource. I forgot.
I figured I was a little bit late.
I apologize. I got ahead of myself.
Yeah.
The last resource I wanted to mention that my sister hasn't is there are organizations out there that will help you. As we know, a lot of organizations that help individuals with special needs are severely underfunded. And that's even in big finger quotes, severely underfunded. And it's unfortunate, because that means that those who really could benefit, who could rise above their special need, don't have the resources available to them to give them that incentive or feel that they're special enough to rise above a textbook definition. Over the year, and this is just an example, over the past year, I have had the ability to have Coping with Disabilities Through Pony recognized as a gaming group, which the resources in which Interplay provided, I'm sure some of you reached out as gaming groups as well, but they provided free cards to those who were gaming groups, and I donated them to a local school, and that school helped with these resources give the students an incentive to work harder on their behaviors, to feel like they were special, because where else could you find these cards unless you signed up as a gaming group? So if we have let's let Interplay help set the example out there for every other organization that may be listening or may be in attendance. Reach out, find the local schools that could benefit from your product, that just would like to be able to have something that they can hold on to that makes them feel special for working hard toward overcoming something that maybe at home they're not told that they can overcome it, or that they can feel themselves stronger than their limitation. It's whenever we all work together as friends, even businesses can be friends, because remember, businesses are considered people. I'm sure we all know that. So if businesses are people, let's act like good people with good ethics. Let's go out there and help. And unless I goofed up again, now Dr. Wolf will summarize the rest of the presentation.
Reaching out, advocating through positive Interplay, got that part. Okay. So, right here, slide 15 now. I am honestly genuinely surprised that I had so many of these wonderful talents that really resonate with so many people. I went through the majority of my life without understanding that I had those talents, because I had been so withdrawn, so pulling into myself, and believing that once you had found something you're good at, you should stick with it and make sure that you can use that for the rest of your life and not have to worry so much about trying to step outside of that comfort zone. Now, this is something I've talked about with so many people in so many of my videos, and I hope people really understand that everyone can make a difference. This is something that I particularly emphasized in the moment with Dr. Wolf, where I was focusing on Dr. Wolf, essentially on myself and my own weaknesses, and how I had to overcome many of those own struggles, and in many ways still trying to overcome some of those struggles, because there may be some dreams that you have in life that are simply beyond your reach, and it really wears you down when you realize your limitations in certain areas, that no matter how hard you work towards, you you can't overcome a specific boundary. But there are so many other ways in which I could contribute to the world and could make a difference in ways that just completely floored me, for lack of a better term. I think it's wonderful that the videos I've put together for over 2 years now have helped people to discuss, to talk it out, to realize, as Matthew has gracefully put it, that therapy is not a bad thing, that withdrawing into yourself and thinking of you're only this one type of person and you don't need to be anything more than that, then you don't, you think that you're only just this one type of person, you don't need to step outside to do anything more. Push yourself, challenge yourself, find ways of overcoming that. This slide says, your disability does not define you. You define your disability. You define who you're going to be. Regardless of whatever happens in life, we always have a choice in how we will react to it. And it will be hard. It will be overwhelmingly hard. But each of us can make that difference. And as we've stated here, being in the Brony community means that we are not alone in such struggles. There are many people out there who are struggling through many of the same things. We can be understood, we can be accepted if we are willing to step up and take part by contributing in our own way or by supporting those who are encouraging that participation. Now, over on slide 16, it talks about where there is a will, there is a way, and how when you decide that you are only going to reach this point, it becomes sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy that you decide, I have only this much to give to the world and nothing more. Then that's all you ever will give. That's all you ever will become in your life. I hope that people understand that all of us have weaknesses. All of us have things to overcome. But when we learn to accept those weaknesses for what they are, and when we humble ourselves to think about our weaknesses in a way that, how would I put it? How our weaknesses can become great strengths in ways that we rarely understand when we first look at them. There are always ways in which we can influence others and take part and contribute in our own unique ways. I hope that everyone here can remember that there is potential, there is a way to overcome. This is something I talk about a lot, but I don't suppose there's ever a point where we talk about it enough, because there's always more people out there who have to struggle to understand that, that they can make a difference in their own lives. And oftentimes it means that we have to ask for help. Oftentimes it means that we can't just say to ourselves, I know that this is a problem and I'm going to overcome it no matter what it takes. One of the more recent episodes of Mending Fences, this is something that I was talking about just last night, how Twilight, in everything she had learned in becoming the Princess of Friendship, that she had discovered about herself and about everyone around her, when she came across Moondancer and began to see who she used to be and how being on the receiving end of this pony who had no interest in friendship and would push others away. As much as she wanted to make that difference, as much as she was able to put in all this effort to make that difference, she realized she couldn't do it all alone. And even though Pinkie Pie was just a little bit a part of that episode, I'm glad that they showed that even as much as Twilight learned, she understood she could not make that difference in Moondancer's life on her own and needed the pastel-colored pink pony to lighten things up and present an opportunity to get through to Moondancer, and it worked in the end. As far as we get in life, and as much as we accomplish, please remember that we all have wonderful strengths and we all have wonderful dreams that we want to overcome, but reach out to others along the way. Make that difference in lifting others as they uplift you and accomplish something that you never could have expected. I'm still doing that every time I'm uploading a moment with Dr. Wolf and presenting new guests and coming up with new ideas and discussions and getting people to just talk. I love that I can make an influence that way. So I suppose that's my piece.
And that again is why friendship is magic, because the only way the magic happens is if you reach out to others and make friends. Nothing happens if you don't. So don't be afraid. If you know that you can reach out to someone and help. If you think that someone out there could help you, reach out to them. Because alone, we can only accomplish so much. And to give a little bit more of an example of what we're trying to mention about special needs and how to cope with them, I'd like to call out my 2 ambassadors who have done a wonderful job, who not only have been out on the floor distributing materials ever since the invention of the con, but are also representing the Harrisburg Autism Society, Donnie and Evan.
As he goes by over here, came up with, involving a Jenga set, as you'll see here in a moment.
I gotta set this up here.
Willow, sweet chariot.
While they set up, does anybody have any questions of anyone here?
I'm going to start with White in the back because I saw her come up first. Yeah.
Thank you. Just one thing that I was hoping to point out. Disability, the entity really depends on the environment. Say, if I can crawl, and that's the primary way I get around, a house or something. If we were meant to crawl, all y'all would be disabled, and I would be the abled one. So it really depends on the environment. Yeah. And another thing is, with coping with it, that's what comedy is for. All comedy is based on misery. I'm Jewish. I've gotten a lot of crud for that. And I watch South Park, and yeah, I know. And something is Cartman. I mean, I still hate him, but he embodies every chauvinistic, misogynistic, person that can't accept anyone whose way is the only way, and their minds can't be changed. And South Park, through its own South Parky way, really teaches that there are people like that and you really can't do anything. So the best thing to do is just accept that those are people out there, they deserve help, you can't change them. All you can really do is just, so what? I'm Jewish, so what? Am I hurting you? Is anyone else hurting you? He picks on everyone, and South Park just teaches to live and let live, and that's why I really admire the writers. So thank you. Sorry.
Are you guys ready? Yeah,
This reminds me of a personal example that I've learned to do. Anybody familiar with a song by Ace of Base called I Saw the Sign, or The Sign? Now, needless to say, as I've been getting better with my cane traveling, I've walked into a number of signs to which every time I walk into one, I hear the song come into my head. It's now on my iPod for that very reason, just so I can remember all the times I've walked into signs. So that kind of thing goes with what you just said. You just got to learn to laugh about it and move on and just know that that's just one part of you.
So they're set up, Matt.
Okay, so, can everybody hear me? Okay, so what I wanted to convey here is a short version of what I'm trying to do, and then the actual demonstration itself. So I have this Jenga set here. I had a Jenga set at home, which I neglected to bring. It's in Pennsylvania now. I painted the bottom section so that it will be highlighted. So for the purpose of the demonstration, I apologize for the inconvenience, but if everybody could kind of picture the bottom section to be any color at all, you know, red, blue, something that would highlight it in your imagination for the demonstration. And then once I convey the point, I would use the character to apply that to what it is we're talking about here. So with the highlighted section, what we're trying to convey is how, you know, your disabilities, your special needs, like I'm autistic, you know, or it could be being a brony, all that, any of that shows on the big, huge Jenga tower. And sorry, I'm nervous here. So that when people look at the whole tower, they may focus on the highlighted section for whatever apparent reason. You know, there could be a million different reasons as to why they would do that, but that would be, this section is what they look at. And when they do that, they don't actually see, you know, the whole tower. They don't see you all together. They don't see the big picture. They miss it. They're oblivious to it. And that just creates a situation where, you know, it's hard for you to show them who you actually are, but it's also hard for them to see you. And one example of this would be, you know, Muffin Seal. In one of the episodes, I can't remember if it was in season 1 or season 2, her and Rainbow Dash were trying to fix the town hall when Applejack was going off to raise funds to fix it up and, you know, make it look nice or whatever it is they were trying to accomplish. Rainbow Dash was saying, you know, care for my Darby, my muffins, whatever. And she was setting up this defense. She was setting up this, you know, wall, this Great Wall of China, because she was looking at that highlighted section. She was focusing on that specific portion of Darby Loaves where, you know, trying to figure out a way to phrase this here.
She was different.
Yeah, different. She didn't have the proper coordination, or maybe Rainbow Dash may have thought she was just uncoordinated or something. I don't know. But she was focusing on that one particular section. And as a result, you know, everything that they were trying to do went south. The whole floor caved in, it got all dusty, you know, Muffin scraps, Rainbow Dash, they fell in, and that was the end result because that section, that wall was set up. But then later in the 100th episode, as we saw in the videos and the clips, you know, she didn't have that wall in front of her. And she was able to look at the situation for what it was, that at the wedding, you know, all these issues going on, it was set for this day, but it had to be done this day, you know, the flowers weren't coming together. She wanted to use Dr. Hoof's flowers, the ignition, flameless fireworks, and she wanted to do all these things and use her ingenuity, you know, that little factory that's in her mind, and she didn't have that wall in front of her, and as a result, you know, she was able to use her whole tower here, the whole section, you know, to accomplish that, and she did it and it worked out great. And, you know, since that wasn't there, that was the byproduct of the results. You know, necessity is the mother of all inventions. Does that all convey the point?
On an extra positive note, I'm very proud of both Deldius and Evan.
Thank you, Matt.
Thanks. All right. So I believe we're out of time, but if anybody wants to come up to the front for a moment, we can do that. And afterwards, we're going to be behind the Hall of the Moon and handing out materials and discussing any other opportunities that you guys might want to discuss.
And I am going to head towards Starbucks if anybody wants to try out my game Braillemon, and just look out for Beanie, and you'll be able to try it out. I have a demo version that will allow you to play it for 5 minutes.
Thank you all for coming as well.